Hey guys, Crystal Thompson here for Studio Katia. I'm so excited you are back here with us on the YouTube channel. Today we are making this really cool card. We are doing what it's called wet stamping. So it's a fun technique to use with your florals from Studio Katia. Then we're doing some heat embossing to make it look super fun. And this is just, again, a really different way to be able to use your florals. We, of course, have some beautiful crystals from Studio Katia. So stay tuned and check out this fun and quick tutorial on how to do some wet stamping with florals. All right, so to begin our card making today with the easy watercolor wet stamping technique, we're going to use some Zig Clean Color Wheel brush colors. In this case, these are markers that react with water. Then for our Studio Katia product, we're going to be using the You Are So Sweet, of course, from Studio Katia. We're going to use all the flower elements along with some of the leaves. And what this is going to do, it's just going to make it super, super pretty. For the sentiment, we're going to be using the Just Because. And so here we go. I have my Misty, my stamp positioner ready to go. I have a piece, a watercolor cardstock 4 1/4, 5 1/2, and then I have already arranged my stamps to be colored. So we are going to begin by grabbing our markers. And please excuse me, I am so sick. And it's just my throat. So thank God we can't pass any of these germs over through the internet, right? Or phone calls. It just sounds horrible though. So we're going to color in our leaves. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can really see what this looks like. So I've zoomed in and we are going to go ahead and stamp with the water here that we got going on. So you can see I added some of the green and yellow. And honestly, all we did was what you saw earlier. We just added a little bit of color on the edges and then kind of mixed it around just a little bit to make sure that the entire image had been colored. All right, so once that is done, I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see how we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to move over our Misty and we're going to grab our spritzer. So in this case, the only spritzer I own is the mini spritzer, and I like what a fine little spritz of water you end up getting. So I want to make sure that it's really saturated, but I don't want it to sit on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it just sit there so it soaks through this watercolor cardstock. Then I have a paper towel or baby wipe that's dry. That way it absorbs the water that's sitting on top, but the cardstock, it's still wet. It's going to activate the flowers that we just stamped. Okay. And that's what you end up getting. If you're like, okay, I need more water, then you can always go ahead and just spritz a little bit more water from further away to just kind of mist it. And then once it's misted, you'll see it just continue adding. So at this point, you can go ahead and add more water, or you can add water to your actual stamping. And that's the beauty of using a stamp positioner. It just really gives you that really pretty effect. And at this point, you can come in and add more water and really run it around, or you can go and cut it. But let me show you, bring this closer to the camera. Super fun. We're going to let this dry before we move on to our next step of heat embossing. All right, so this is completely dry, so we are ready to move on to the next part of this card. So I have a little bit of this embossing buddy, which is just cornstarch, and we are going to fully cover the entire image. And the reason why is that we don't want any of the static from the, the water, whatever's going on in our environment here. And the cornstarch is really going to keep it off of that. So we're going to place this back where it was, and if you see that it's just not holding on, you can use your magnets, or you can come in and use some tape. And so we're going to place this down, okay? And again, you can use some tape on the edge there, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to bring in my Simon Says Stamp Embossing Watermark ink. You can use whatever you like. And I'm going to ink up the stamp that we have over on this left side. So with that being done, we are going to, ta-da, don't let it move. Again, if you want to go ahead and add some more tape to the background of this, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, taped it down. I have my stamp nice and inked up with the embossing ink. So we're going to just make sure that the entire card is covered with that embossing ink, and you can see it already right here in the center part. So we're going to remove it from our MISTI. We're going to bring in our black embossing powder, and I really want to use the black because it's going to make it pop. But you can use white if you're trying to go for a lighter look, a little softer look. And then we're just going to cover the flowers that we had stamped with that embossing powder. So you want to be sure that your watercolor wet stamping is completely dry, because if it's not, it's going to kind of stick to those wet areas. And so there we have it. We're going to come in and heat set this. And this is just a really fun way to create this card, and it's going to make it pop. We're going to heat set all the way through. And as you can see, the black embossing powder is going to start getting shiny. So if you haven't used embossing powder before, you want to remove the heat once it's become shiny so you don't overheat it and you don't end up losing your image. Okay. We're going to do one last pass, make sure we didn't miss anything. And I am really quite happy with the way that turned out. It's really, really just very clean. And so we're going to let it be. Okay, I'm going to remove that little piece there, a little bit of embossing ink. And we're going to move on to our sentiment. So on our sentiment, I have the Studio Katia, and we have the Just Because. And we're going to ink this up again with embossing ink, and I'm going to list all the products that I'm using for this card. And this is just a really fun technique to use with all your Studio Katia products, especially with florals. Studio Katia has some beautiful florals, and so it makes it quick and easy to make a card. So we're going to heat emboss this. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and put this on our card base and make it all nice and pretty. All right, so Pantone's color of the year is a beautiful blue. So we're going to do here, I have this square, and I love using scraps when making cards. So I have cut it to be the same width as my card that we just did, and I'm going to add just a little bit in the bottom. So you can totally use your scraps to add just a little pop of color to any of your cards. So by doing that, it's really going to hold my watercolor base. It's going to stop it from curling, and then I can actually go in places on a card base now because it's nice and solid. So for our embellishment, we are going to use the beautiful Studio Katia Icy Sparkles in Crystal, and we're just going to kind of pop them all around, all over the florals. So we're just going to add little drops, and let me tell you, I'm using the Studio Katia glue because it dries clear and it's super, super pretty. And so the little ice crystals are just going to give it a little bit of a shimmer and a shine, and it's going to make it super, super easy to embellish it and just kind of keep it that nice, clean and simple card that we have going on, and utilizing one of our newest techniques, in this case being wet stamping. So guys, I'm going to finish this up. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. So as we said earlier in the video, this is Crystal Thompson. Excuse my cold. This is the season. I hope you have learned a new technique and another way to utilize your Studio Katia florals with a different technique. Be sure to click subscribe and like the like button so we can continue providing videos like these for you. Thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your day.